There is nothing subtle from classic, even on the rewatch.
Okay, bet. Here is an extensive list of subtle things in just Season 1 of Classic. The Tsukino household nameplate introduces the Tsukino family quite subtly. We know Kinji is her father's name and that he is older than her mother. We know that Usagi is a big sister to a younger brother named Shingo. All of this is information we learn before we even see these characters, and while Shingo being called Usagi's little brother is not subtle, the introduction of the entire family by the nameplate is. Luna's character arc from episode 1 to 30. Her subtle change from an antagonistic, mysterious, distrusting personality shifts into who she becomes for the rest of the series. This character arc is handled so subtly that most viewers don't recognize how far she's come or even noticed a character arc for her during this length of time. Episode 31 is the first Luna-centric episode that features an obvious change in her character, but she has been developing and changing since episode 1. Luna's portrayal in the story is ambiguous and often given a negative or ominous slant during episodes 1 through 7. Though her portrayal gets notably more positive and virtuous afterwards, she is still keeping secrets from the Senshi that is unnecessary and sometimes harmful or detrimental to them. Again, this is so subtle that most viewers don't recognize this behavior as shady or how it negatively reflects on Luna. Mamoru and Usagi's relationship development, specifically Mamoru's feelings toward Usagi from episode 1 to 34. Mamoru, with every passing interaction, becomes more and more open with Usagi. Less and less angry and hateful, shifting to playful teasing and jesting, while offering advice and assistance to genuinely help her. He begins showing care and appreciation for her, culminating in his behavior in episode 35, when he tells her to never change before going to face certain doom. Throughout the episode, he's protective of her, determined to sacrifice himself for her, and is willing to share his innermost secrets and thoughts with her, before she reveals her true identity as Sailor Moon. Jadeite's feelings for Beru are incredibly subtle, to the point that I didn't notice it until actively studying the episodes and taking extensive notes. Subsequently, Jadeite's mental deterioration is slow and practically unseen until episode 10 at the earliest. You really have to be paying attention to see the gradual change from cool and in control to unhinged and desperate. Mamoru's motivation and his identity as Tuxedo Kamen is handled very subtly in episodes 1 through 18. We don't actually know why he's always around the places Usagi is, nor why Tuxedo Kamen helps Sailor Moon like he does. Episode 19 is when Usagi gets the opportunity to ask him about his motivations, and it's revealed that even he doesn't really know. And episode 26 is the first time Tuxedo Kamen becomes integrated into Mamoru's personality, instead of being a split personality from him. Only from this point forward does his motivations become clear. Save Sailor Moon because he is compelled to through a supernatural connection to the fragment of the silver crystal inside of her, and he finds a connection between her and the woman in his dreams. Find the rainbow crystals and forge the silver crystal proper because the woman in his dreams beckons him to do so. And there are villains who wish to use the silver crystal for nefarious purposes that would harm innocent people. Eventually, he reveals in episode 34 that the silver crystal may hold the key to restoring the memories he lost when he was 10 years old, and that these ominous dreams of his had started all those years ago and never stopped. The symbolism of Crybaby Usagi's graceful change relating to multiple core themes throughout the entire series will absolutely be unnoticed by first-time viewers. The symbolism of Black Cat mythology adding ambiguity to Luna's portrayal. The symbolism of demon possession solely dependent on the visual design and references of Morga in episode 1 and several other Yoma throughout the season. Even the specific way that Yoma are manifested and implemented support this theme and is never stated outright. The design of most of Sailor Moon's transformation items referencing the different Senshi she encounters that season. She does not have jewels representing the outer Senshi until S, sort of. but definitely for stars. The symbolism of roses/flowers referencing the core theme of the series gracefully transforming into something beautiful and fully matured. The change from Moon Tiara Boomerang to Moon Tiara Action to emphasize and support the demon possession theme. Again, this is not a detail I noticed until I was actively studying every detail of episode 1. Tuxedo Kamen's line, "Crying isn't going to solve anything, Sailor Moon," is actually correct, though viewers can mistakenly believe that the supersonic waves activated by her crying did solve the problem. However, the subtlety comes in when taking the line literally and analyzing the supersonic waves attack. The supersonic waves did not defeat Morga, which is the true problem of this scene. It knocked out the mind slaves and incapacitated her momentarily, but she was not defeated, and the energy she stole was not returned because of the supersonic waves. Therefore, crying really didn't solve anything. Moon Tiara Action did. Morga, disguised as Naru's mom, behaving slightly off. I don't go over this in the episode 1 analysis vids because I noticed it during editing and I didn't want to delay releasing part 3 by going way back to part 1's content to add this bit in. But anyway, Morga does a few things that don't register on the first few watches, but after studying the episode with a fine-tooth comb, I noticed some nice subtle touches. For one, she treats Usagi as if she's never met her before. This is done so subtly that not even Naru and Usagi notice it. But the way she addresses Usagi, her daughter's best friend for at least a year or two, seems like she's meeting her for the first time. She treats her like a customer, not like the family friend that she is. The next detail that could be easily overlooked is when the Osapi customers shove Naru and Usagi aside and crowd all on top of them, Morga doesn't do anything about that. She literally does nothing. She doesn't call out to them, she doesn't ask if they're alright, she doesn't check on them, she doesn't try to make the crowd calm down so she can attend to them. She just continues on with the sale. I understand that it's played for laughs and it's meant to be slapstick fun, but her characterization is consistent with that of a demon posing as a human. She's doing a decent enough job to fool everybody, but if anyone stopped and thought about any of her actions, they would realize something is off about her. It makes complete sense that we, the audience, can pick up on these details, but the characters themselves wouldn't be able to. Not until it's already too late. The musical choices in the Morga fight perfectly support and follow the action and tone of the scene, including the individual shifts and changes in tone. The fact that the particular track used in the scene is also the transformation song is especially fantastic, because it uses subtle changes in the arrangement to effectively change the entire tone of the song to fit the action scene. The Dark Kingdom being unaware of Sailor Moon's existence until episode 3 and how Jadeite discovers Sailor Moon is subtle. In episode 1, he doesn't know why Morga has failed, just that she failed due to the energy dissipating suddenly. Jadeite reacts harshly towards Morga due to her failure, not caring how or why she failed. In episode 2, he reacts slightly different to Balm's failure, despite the circumstances being identical to Jadeite. But because of how he reacts in the aftermath of Balm's death, it can be reasonably understood that he's suspicious of his Yoma being killed twice in a row. In episode 3, he works alongside Flao and never explains outright why. But because of his change in reaction to Morga and Balm's death, it's easy to interpret that he wanted to ensure that Flao wouldn't fall victim to the same thing that killed Morga and Balm, thus thwarting his plan. And when Sailor Moon reveals herself, he correctly deduces that she is the one that defeated his previous Yoma and dashed his plots. And when he's about to kill her but is interrupted by an unknown third party, he stops and retreats. Episode 4 shows him working alone, using hypnotic equipment to secure minions that double as meat shields so he can secure the energy and get it back to D point without issue. Again, It is never stated why he doesn't bring a Yoma along for this plot, nor why he felt the need to use technology to create mind slaves. But using the previous reactions Jadeite has shown to specific opposition or roadblocks, it can be reasonably assumed that he's doing all this to avoid involving the third party to stop him from securing all the energy. All of this is logical and consistent with Jadeite's intelligence and priorities, but is never stated outright. This is the epitome of subtlety. Naru's reaction to Umino's out-of-character behavior in episode 2 supports her later affection for Nephrite. She views several of Umino's reprehensible actions in that episode, including flipping up Haruna Sensei's skirt, throwing rocks at teachers through a window, being sexually aggressive and attempting to sexually assault Usagi, and pushing Usagi to go on a date with him as brave instead of obnoxious. She lists all these things in a positive light, as opposed to deriding him and chastising him for doing these bad things. Usagi reacts accordingly to Umino's actions, but Naru appears impressed, which hints at the fact that she likes bad boys, just before the arc where she falls for the baddest boy at that point in the story. Yumeno's potential supernatural power is handled very subtly. First, we're shown several rainbow crystal holders displaying supernatural powers unique to their lives. Crane Game Joe has limited telekinesis, thus making him able to easily win at crane games. Urawa has clairvoyance. After Yumemi's episode, we're shown that Grandpa Hino has supernatural powers similar to Rei's and even similar to Zoisite himself. That on top of his physical abilities outclassing all other men of his age, bordering on supernatural agility, speed, durability, and jumping. Finally, we're shown Retto Butler has abilities similar to Tuxedo Kamen, who has a sixth sense specific to Sailor Moon. Retto Butler also appears to have a sixth sense specific to Luna, as no matter where she is in episode 31, he knows she's in danger and runs to her rescue. And again, his agility, speed, durability, and jumping capacity are far greater than a normal cat with his physique should have. So we have proof that rainbow crystal holders tend to have supernatural abilities, although Reika and the priest appears to be the exception to the rule. However, we are told that many people believed that owning one of her illustrations could make their romantic dreams come true. Now, it's not necessarily a fact that this happens to people who own her art, but we have a clear precedent of relatively low-level supernatural powers displayed by the vast majority of the rainbow crystal holders. And we have this rumor specific to Yumemi's artwork, so one can reasonably conclude that this rumor is in fact a supernatural ability that Yumemi has due to being a rainbow crystal holder. It can also be concluded that just like Reika and the priest, she does not possess supernatural powers, and this is just a baseless rumor. But the fact that it isn't definitive and is open to interpretation on the viewer's part makes it very subtle. That's just season 1, and it's not even a comprehensive list. I skipped over so many things. Nothing subtle in classic. I guess you just weren't paying attention then. That, or you've begun overdosing on that gas canister of copium connected to your face. I mean, I don't know what else can be said here other than you're f***ing wrong, buddy. Either you're so unobservant you couldn't pick up on these details while watching the show due to underestimating it or something, or you haven't watched the show in a long time, forgot this subtle stuff, and are talking out of your ass because you want to defend Crystal, but critically, you're at a loss as to how. Or the third option, which just so happens to be my favorite, you don't actually know what the word subtle means and are therefore disagreeing with my assessment because you're confused but don't want to let my praise of classic go unchallenged. Either way, you are so unbelievably wrong, it's hysterical. But thanks for the laughs, Chuckles.